When I said that Devon Dampier wouldn't start over Hauss, Haney, or Zane Stillwater, I certainly meant it. I also thought that it might ruffle some feathers, and apparently Utah has some sensitive feathers.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Utah has a bird as a mascot. Oklahoma State has a dude with a shotgun that is built to shoot down birds. Unfortunately, the Cowboys and the Utes do not play this season. It's not stopping the fan bases from poking fun at each other and having some different dialogues. So I did want to get on this thing with JT here and help us break it down, because Oklahoma State had very similar seasons, right? Cowboys won 3 games. Utah wins 5 games. You lose your 55-year-old quarterback. We lose our 55-year-old quarterback. You lost Bernard to the NFL. We lost Ollie Gordon to the NFL. You lost your starting safety to the NFL. We lose Trey Rucker to the NFL. There's so many similarities between Oklahoma State and Utah, yet somehow all across the country, the national prognostications have the Utes in a massive rebound because of Kyle Whittingham, and Oklahoma State's going to have another 3 to 4 win season because of Mike Gundy, I guess. I don't completely understand it, so you're the expert. JT, help it make sense to Oklahoma State country. Why is Utah being judged so well and Oklahoma State's being judged so critically when we have a lot of very similar things to replace?
Well, first, I like the metaphor you kind of talked about with Swoop or the Eagle and kind of going against a gun, a cowboy there. And I'm going to miss Alan Bowman being the guy to fire, because that's the reason we were able to win last year, is because he missed the Eagle so many times that we, even with Isaac Wilson, we were able to swoop in and win. Here's how I look at it. The biggest differences between Utah and Oklahoma State. We can talk about quarterback more in a second, but to me, we clearly have a better quarterback situation. Most important position on the field. Yes, he has to prove he can succeed at the P4 level. But when you look at the makings of a guy ready to step up, being the only player in the country last year who threw for over 2,500 yards, rushed for 1,000 yards, led college football in yards per carry, led the 4th best offense in a yards per game basis, re-teaming with his offensive coordinator, I might add as well too, and was tied for first amongst quarterbacks in forced missed tackles a season ago, is why a lot of the country is high on Devon Dampier. And also, I'll just say this. Why was Utah bad last year? They were in a bunch of one-score games that they could not win because, simply put, they had horrendous quarterback play. Oklahoma State not in a lot of – they were in some one-score games, but they also got blown out on several occasions. Utah really only got blown out against Colorado later in the season. So you look at this Utah team outside of that, yes, we obviously both have running backs to replace. We did get Wayshawn Parker. He had 700 yards, the true freshman at Washington State. So I think he will be good. I think the reason a lot of people are high on Utah, though, too, is this offensive line. I mean, right now you have 2 projected first-round offensive tackles. That's absolutely massive. All 5 starters are coming back on an offensive line that last year was still very good, too. So I just don't see how that offensive line, granted, I know y'all returned all 5 starters last year. I don't see how that unit's bad. Like, just with those 2 tackles, even if the interior offensive line can improve a little bit, they were still good enough last year, too. We're still talking about the 2nd-best defense in the Big 12 last year, too. So even though they lose some guys, I still expect them to be a top 5 unit. It's a Utah team when they have had their starting quarterback, the quarterback they intended to lead this team. The last 2 times that's been the case, because last 2 years was Cam Rising's health. That's why it didn't happen and go that way. This Utah team has made it to a conference championship game and won it 2 times in a row. Utah's also gotten over that hump. Oklahoma State just hasn't yet. So to me, Utah's biggest question mark was quarterback and offense, and they have gotten a guy who at the very least will be better. So Utah to me is absolutely a logical pick to return to form in the conference. How do you feel about that, Cody? And why is the country wrong about the Cowboys being the team that can be the one to bounce back?
No, that's not bad at all. And I think when you look back at Oklahoma State this previous season, it wasn't necessarily starting talent that was the biggest issue. It was the fact that the coaches didn't have a common consensus on who should have been the starters. And that caused a lot of complacency, a lot of laziness, and everybody wasn't checking in on their fellow players or their fellow coaches to make sure they were doing what they were supposed to do. And it unraveled very, very, very quickly. And I think whenever you look at this Oklahoma State team, we have, 40 new transfers, and we also have a pretty decent size freshman class to equal almost 60 brand new players. Mm-hmm. That is precisely what Oklahoma State needed. Whenever you looked at this previous year, Mike Gundy did something he's never done before, which is fire coaches. Not only did he fire coaches, he fired, JT, say it with me, every flipping body. That's the most unprecedented Mike Gundy move of all time. Whether it was pushed a little bit by the Board of Regents or not, it happened, and that's what needed to happen. Not only that, he embraced the NIL era for the first time in his career. So now Oklahoma State's spending legitimate money to acquire legitimate talent, and we went out and got tons of legitimate coaches. Todd Grantham coming over with a decade's worth of time in the SEC and almost a decade's worth of time in the NFL. He brought back staff with him that traced back to 2015 of them coaching together at Mississippi State, Florida. A couple of them coached together at Bama. So I like the cohesive nature of the coaching staff that Mike Gundy brought in. They're all SEC dudes. So this is how the defense is reacting right now, right? It's very intense. It's very physical. It's very chippy, which is something that we needed. We were Charmin soft last year. You mentioned the offensive line. We had 5 returning starters. 4 of them were not worth the Charmin extra soft that they used to wipe their tails with in the locker room. And yet our coaching staff couldn't see that, and they refused to do anything about it. The 2 highest graded PFF dudes last season were Jason Queso-Brooks, who transferred to Houston, and Noah McKinney, who is now thankfully back this season. But last season at Oklahoma State, you could be the best player and you were not going to play. Yeah. That stuff is gone. It was a nightmare. I'm so happy that Mike Gundy addressed that issue. And lastly, I will mention, you brought down the big fellas up front. And that is something that I don't think a lot of us nationally paid attention to. We knew about Fano, like everybody knows how phenomenal that dude is. But I don't think we realized that you have all of your offensive line back. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about the quarterback position? Obviously speaks volume. My only difficulty with Devon Dampier is I felt this same way in the offseason last year about DeQuan Finn. Yeah. Right? He had, 1,600 yards rushing or something crazy like that at Toledo, another 2,000 yards. He did some insane stuff and shattered records at Toledo. So I thought that would translate to Baylor, but he was not very good at all. And clearly the adjustment to the level of competition was his biggest issue. Why does the Utah country have faith that Devon Dampier is not going to go through the same thing that DeQuan Finn did? Coming in, tons of missed tackles, tons of athleticism, or very good arm strength, but the adjustment to this level was just a little bit too much for DeQuan Finn. What is Dampier going to be able to do to counterbalance that?
Well, that's where I mentioned I think it's great that he's coming with his offensive coordinator, a guy who knows how to maximize his skills, make him work too. Also, I know Baylor's offense got better as the season went on. It was a rough start for the Bears, especially along the offensive line, I thought as well too. So the fact that you have that continuity back on the offensive line, Jim Harding's a really good offensive line coach, the one that Utah has as well. They've consistently been able to put offensive linemen into the NFL recently too. So I feel good about those players' continued growth there as well too. I think Devon Dampier is going to have time. Utah's questions at wide receiver. Let's not act like this is, I picked Utah to win the Big 12 this season, but it's not like, oh my gosh, they're going to breeze through the conference. No, they're going to be in several difficult games. I mean, we just got through, we'll talk about a little bit this Big 12 game we just had this last weekend, I know. Yeah. So you see those 2 physical teams, I'm like, dang, it's going to, Utah misses Iowa State, but Kansas State, that's going to be a fist fight. I could see either team getting a win in that one there. But for Utah, to me, it is because, to me, Devon Dampier also, here's another thing with Devon Dampier. He played P4 teams last year. He succeeded against them. If you look at what he did against Arizona, against Auburn, against a borderline P4 team, Washington State, he had good numbers against them overall. So to me, he feels like a guy who's ready to make this transition because he's going to have time in the pocket. Only sacked 5 times last year. He should have been sacked 5 times alone against Arizona or against Auburn, but he was sacked just 5 times on the year in total. So I like the athlete that he is. I feel confident he's in the right system to maximize him. Cody, it's totally fair to bring up DeQuan Finn, but if you look at college football as a whole, we do see G5 QBs come up to the P4 level and have success. Last year, Diego Pavia, say what you want about him. Vandy had one of their best years in a very long time. Curtis Rourke from Indiana. It's a very different quarterback than a DeQuan Finn and some of these guys, but he helped Indiana have a monster season a year ago too. And you can say that as well about Green, the transfer at Arkansas as well. Was he a great quarterback? No, but he still had success, made plays at the P4 level. So we do see quarterbacks come in and have success. It matters what system you're in. I feel like Dampier's in the right system. I think he's going to flourish. And Cody, I think the take that you have, I love you, man. I think it's insane. I think he's easily going to be better than any quarterback that comes out of Stillwater. I don't know what you're smoking or drinking down there, but I do not have confidence in that Oklahoma State QB situation being better than Devon Dampier at all.
Well, I think Zane Flores is bigger than Dampier, has a better arm than Devon Dampier, and Hauss is faster than Devon Dampier.
What has he accomplished at the collegiate level?
Nothing yet.
Listen,
what has Devon Dampier accomplished at this level?
I said collegiate level, first of all.
I heard you trying to sneak that in there. I heard you. All right. Hey, that would have been a phenomenal segue, but real quick before we do shift to some of the scheduling and Yormark and Farmageddon and yada, 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 I do want to ask you, because you mentioned having one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in the Big 12 this previous season, Utah.
Second.
But I went through 2-4-7. Y'all have 6 defensive backs that left. Not all of them were starters. I'm sure of that.
Yes.
But what have you guys done in the portal to replace those few DBs that were starters to kind of get that defense back to where it was this last year?
Yeah, and you brought that up on a squad show before, and I was dismissive of it. That's fair. Some of the depth guys. I think the reason I'm confident with the secondary, that even if they're a little worse, because of the guys that left, so they lost 2. They kind of had 4 corners who played a lot for them. 2 of them back, 2 of them left. So Smith Snow in the slot corner, he's going to be one of the best in the Big 12 this upcoming season, I believe. Elijah Davis on the outside, he was really good last year too. So it's okay. Who's the next guy that steps in there and steps up? For Utah right now, it's looking like it's going to be Blake Cotton, the UC Davis transfer, and I'm excited for him. Also, you mentioned something interesting, Cody. We can dive into this another time, but Utah also brought in an Auburn transfer, and Blake Cotton has been able to beat him out. Just because those guys are coming from some of those bigger conferences, I'm curious to see if they will be able to get on the field and make that impact. I'm sure you covered that more in other shows. But also, if we look at Utah's safety room, Teo Johnson, really good last year. He needed to clean up his tackling a little bit, but in coverage, he was fantastic. So 3 starters back. And Rabbit Evans, if you look at some of the games he played later in the season, particularly against Iowa State, where he got the start with Utah's other safety injured, he looks phenomenal. So I just feel this is a really good Utah secondary. Sharif Shaw, Morgan Scalley, the coaches there. Morgan Scalley is one of the best DCs in college football. Like, they just always produce really good secondary. Question for Utah will be along the defensive line. That's another position where it's like Utah usually has good defensive linemen, but they lost more transfers and guys to the NFL that were impact guys in that secondary. So it's kind of like, okay, who's going to step up on the defensive line? That's the question. Get Lander Barton back. Good linebacking core there. But do feel good about that secondary. Can Utah generate pressure? That's the bigger question.
I can dig it. And you know what? We will talk about some of the scheduling stuff. And naturally, this is a little bit of a brewing rivalry, even though Brett Yormark missed the boat with the scheduling department. Before we get to that, JT, we got to talk about being the king ding-a-ling of the bedroom with Rougiette. Most of us have all heard of Viagra or Cialis. Some dudes out here have probably even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiette Ready. JT, Rougiette is the next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. So not just the blood flow boost like everybody else. This one also has an ingredient that functions inside of your brain. Rougiette's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under the tongue and kicks in fast, on average in about 15 minutes. The effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident, in control, and be the beast in the bedroom. If traditional options haven't worked, Rougiette might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made this switch. You're going to love that it's completely online. It's discreet. Rougiette is going to connect you with a board-certified doctor and ship them right to your door. You can even read real customer reviews on their site. That's going to help thousands and thousands of potential people feel more confident and present in the moment. Head on over to Rougiette.com/LockedOnCollege, all one word. Use that code LockedOnCollege to get 15% off today. That is Rougiette, Rugiet.com/LockedOnCollege. Make sure you use that promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. JT, this 50% off, it might be for you, man. I don't know. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be even prescribed under federal law, but not FDA approved, and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, and manufacturing review. Please visit the website at Rougiette for full safety information. I only say that because you and I both suffer from this hair issue, which is why we live in hats. It is what it is, but you out there, you need to go get with a Rougiette to be the king ding-a-ling of your man cave, bedroom, back cave, whatever the case may be. Okay, buddy. Now we get to
king of the bat cave. You said that?
That's where I'm operating at this very moment, in my bat cave. This is, it's funny. Sometimes I say I've got to go do a show, but sometimes I'm simply just running away. But you know what? She doesn't need to know all that. Anywho. All right. So we move on from Rougiette, right, where we're struggling to find who's going to be the king ding-a-ling flag bearer of this conference in the Big 12. But Brett Yormark's not doing us a ton of favors. Mm-hmm. Oklahoma State doesn't play Utah this year. We didn't play Texas Tech last year. Farmageddon, after an epic matchup, is not going to be played next year. I don't know what he's thinking, drinking, doing. It doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense. But actually, you know what? Let's talk a little bit about Farmageddon before we get to this back and forth between O State, Utah fan bases, especially on social media. What do you think about Farmageddon? Did it go how you thought it was going to go, or was there some things about the game that you thought was very intriguing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for me, sloppy at the start, right? I think some of that is weather. Some of that is first game of the season. Some of that, Cody, I don't know if you caught this. Kansas State mentioned they got out there on Thursday. So you're telling me they got out there Thursday and you got to deal with the time change when you go overseas. And then you're playing a college football game. We got to be at your best on Saturday. I think that also played a role into it. It was so great to have college football back. I love that the Big 12 was on a stage. Honestly, I get why fans get frustrated when their teams don't play that extra home game and are instead going overseas. But I'm someone where I'm like, that's an incredible experience for the university and the student. It's one time like every 50 years. I think it's cool. I don't have an issue with it. I know a lot of people get all fired up about that, but I thought it was a good opportunity for the conference. Honestly, I thought both teams showed out. Really disagree with Chris Kleinman, his offensive coordinator, Matt Wells, deciding to go for it on that 4th and 1 inside their own 30. I just didn't think that was a good decision when Kansas State's offense had momentum. Make Iowa State drive the field on you as well. I thought Matt Campbell did end up winning the coaching matchup there, which is fitting. He got his 100th career win. Really impressed with Rocco Becht, but I think it's going to be very hard for Kansas State to make this conference title game now. When you just look at their schedule, like only losing one more game is very daunting in conference play, but both those teams really good, very tough outs. And Iowa State more so from a scheduling perspective I could see in Arlington, but Kansas State to me proved that they still belong in that top 25 conversation.
Well, obviously the game went almost identical to how I thought it would, right? I got lucky, okay? And I had to make sure to promote that out because I'm sure I'm going to get
no luck. Genius.
I'm going to get more wrong than I get right. But yeah, from the score to the sloppiness, it went exactly how I thought it would go. Coach Wells is a little disappointing, especially because he's an Okie, right? Having the Oklahoma kid make that kind of a mistake, it sucks. But my hot take for Friday's show was actually this. The winner of that game, which I had as Iowa State 24-21, will not make the Big 12 title game because Iowa State's going to lose their last game of the season in Stillwater, and K-State is going to have an opportunity to end up there anyways. Both teams are going to look night and day different between now and when we're in the nuts and bolts section of the Big 12 race. That's my biggest issue. I love the Ireland thing. I love having a Big 12 team in it. I don't like it being two Big 12 teams because this is going to count against the Big 12 title race. It's going to be a game that is completely forgotten about by the time the title race is in discussion. And both of these teams are going to look way, 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 way different when it's all said and done. But nonetheless, that proved that this is a game that needs to continuously be a thing. So I don't know if Brett Yormark can retroactively go back and fix this, but not having Farmageddon every year is the dumbest thing I can physically possibly think of. Did I like not playing Tech last year? No, I love playing Tech. That would have been great. Do I like not playing Utah this year? Absolutely not. After we both had horrendous seasons and we're both being compared, in completely different lights, a game versus these two would be a perfect idea this season. But we're missing the boat a little bit. That seems to be okay. Because, yes, I did ruffle some feathers in the Big 12 squad show when I said that Devon Dampier would be QB3 in Stillwater, Oklahoma. But at the same point in time, the fan base they seem to be going back and forth. O State and Utah, more so than everybody else that I can see. I don't know where this animosity originally came from, but it wasn't you and I, right? You and I can stoke the flames and ruffle some more swoop feathers. We can do that. But I legitimately, I have a hard time understanding why there is so much animosity between the two schools and why Brett Yormark hasn't capitalized on it.
Yeah, to me,
Oklahoma State is one of the biggest brands of the conference. Utah is one of the biggest brands of the conference. Eventually, we have to have a flag bearer. Right now, the parity is great. But eventually, whether it's a Utah or an O State or a K-State or Iowa State, somebody's going to have to take the flag and do what OU did for a decade. Be the team that runs the conference and represents in the Final Four on a consistent basis. But we're not there yet. And without all of these scheduling rivalries, I don't know how we get there. What say you, sir?
To me, the Big 12 missed out by not having Utah and Oklahoma State be among the teams that play each other every year. From a Utah perspective, right, I look at it and I'm like, okay, Utah obviously has to play BYU one every year. Utah playing Colorado, I think makes a lot of sense from proximity. They have a long history as well, even though it's not like a rivalry. It just makes a lot of sense to me. But to me, if I was the Big 12, I think it would have been really cool to try and establish some rivalries among conference opponents when you're merging these conferences, try to build them from the start. And the way I would have looked at doing that is winning percentage, like over the conference's history. And especially recently, like the last 10 years, Utah and Oklahoma State were arguably Big 12, Oklahoma State, arguably the best program left over from not Texas, Oklahoma that left. Right. Oklahoma State are best. Utah, arguably the best program that the Big 12 then brought in. To me, it helps when you have teams that play that have like marquee matchups really bolster your conference. That's another reason it's just a mistake to me. Kansas State and Iowa State aren't playing each other moving forward. Also, like you like to capitalize on that Farmageddon success. I'll say week 0, the Iowa, just this bowl game, right? Not bowl game. Yeah. This Ireland showcase, because what is it? It's the only game on in the country that really matters that first week. So you get all these eyeballs. If Florida State and Georgia Tech were playing this year, I don't know off the top of my head if they were, but as soon as I logged on to ESPN and I saw that coming up for a week, I'd be excited because I'm like, oh, that was a dramatic finish last year. I feel the same way about this game. But next year, we don't get to talk about that. So, and in some ways, you could say that about Utah, Oklahoma State. Like this year, we look at the lead up to that game last year, which I think can help build the animosity between Utah and Oklahoma State, was both those teams were conference contenders. So they were pitted against each other. So it was heated. They're going back and forth. And now it'd be awesome if we get that game again. 2 coaches and conferences that are trying to rebuild, 2 legendary coaches as well. Gundy versus Witt. That's a massive storyline in and of itself. I think it's a real missed opportunity. The Big 12 did not go, okay, we want our teams to have those top 25 wins when we get to their playoff resume at the end of the year. Utah and Oklahoma State, a lot of times they're going to be in the top 25. Them not matching up with each other each year, to me, is a mistake. This should have been a rivalry that the Big 12 tried to build and establish. And I don't really know if they're trying to do that with this schedule lexicon, which I think is a mistake. Yeah,
100%. Like the Holy War is the biggest rivalry in the conference nationally. Then it's Farmageddon.
Yeah, Farmageddon.
After the Holy War and Farmageddon, you don't really have anything. I know TCU and Baylor,
Arizona State.
They pretend to have a rivalry between Waco and Fort Worth. I've never seen it be a rivalry.
Yeah. Arizona State's another one, Cody, that I put up, not by the other 2, but like up there as well too. That one is usually one. And the Big 12 actually, they have some faith in that apparently, because they a lot of times put that in that last week of the regular season. They did that last year. I'm not sure if they're doing that again this year, but they're trying to bolster that one, I guess.
For that rivalry to be good, Arizona has to be good. So it makes sense for Brent Brennan to be on the hot seat. I'm sure you've seen.
That's funny. They used to be.
Mike Gundy's on a lot of hot seats, which I agree with, but not because of football. His hot seat is because the Board of Regents and him do not like each other, and they don't see eye to eye. But anywho, buddy, so we are going to talk about the ascension of Utah, because I do think that's where some of the animosity, if not maybe all of the animosity, between not only Oklahoma State and Utah fans, but most of the Big 12 fan base, it's because of, you know what it's because of. Before we do that, though, we have to let you all know it's capitalization season, and there's a holiday coming up for all of us. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day. It's a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just a 24-hour period, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP right now, eyeing your long shot division winner, or you're already ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before the season even starts, this is your opportunity. Take a flyer on the MVP race, crown your champion in August, or parlay your division winner dark horses right now. Get prepared for this futures holiday. Visit FanDuel or the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now, because Futures Day is a one and only day, massive event. It's going to feel like a holiday, but this is your opportunity to cash in and play your game. All right, so here we get to what I think is the meat and taters. I know you're supposed to do some of the meat and taters on segment 1, but I figured might as well spice this thing up a bit. What is with the Utah fan base, all right, and this – I thought, honestly, bro, I thought it was just poking fun at the Big 12 when y'all first got in the conference, and Utah fans were like, well, this is stupid. We belong in the Big 10. I honestly thought it was Utah fans just poking the Big 12. But now we're deep enough into it that it's not that. There's tons and tons of Utah fans that legitimately believe they should have been in the Big 10. They've been Big 10 ready. And I'm not poking fun per se, but 15 years ago, you guys went from G5 to Pac-12 to Big 12, And where in that process, honest to God's truth, where in that process did Utah fans say, we're going from G5 to the Big Ten? When did this happen, and why do Utah fans legitimately believe they're so far above the Big 12 that they should have already been in the Big Ten by now? Where did this come from?
Yeah, well, first, I still think there's a lot of Utah fans that are like, okay, like if anyone could be in the Big 12, not Utah fan, but a lot of other fan bases as well, too, right? There's this arms race kind of going on in college football for brands. And also, like, the future of college football is so uncertain. You don't want to be left out. In a way, Utah got left out of the Big 10. I mean, their conference crumbled. So it's like, okay, where do we go? You're in scramble mode a little bit as well, too. I think so. Also, I'll just say this once again, I think a lot of Utah fans feel like, you know what, we're happy to be in the Big 12, but I know there are some that are not happy and want to go. Remember, there is a loud majority on social media, Cody. We do see a loud minority on social media.
Gotcha.
I think there's a lot of people as well that are like, hey, we're just happy to be in the Big 12 in college football. And if we get to the Big 10 someday, that'd be great. But at the same, because I think a lot of people look at it like, at first I was like, oh, Utah could have gotten into the Big 10 if you look at based on some recent success metrics, which we'll go back to that in a moment. But at the same time, if Utah's goal is to compete for national championships and just win, their easiest path of access is absolutely in the Big 12, because Utah in a program is nowhere near what Ohio State is, what Oregon's also become in the NIL era, having to play them year in and year out. I just don't think he's good. I'd much rather get to play them in that one game scenario than go through the conference grind of teams that are just frequently spending more than you. So the reason that some Utah fans were fired up about this, though, is what did Utah do? When you see people, and this goes for life too, when people get something that instead of you, and you beat them at that, that's going to lead to frustration. We beat Washington, Oregon, USC. We beat those. UCLA a lot. We're going to play them this Friday. Like, we beat those teams. So the fact that they get in over that, I think there's some parts of it where it's frustrating of like, well, we're beating them. Like, that's what happened on the field. But the truth is about those Big Ten invites and everything. It's about so much more than that. It's about, what market you're in, some of the academic stuff, even though I think Utah has good academics, right? It's just like the brand power is what it is more than anything, right? So I think for Utah fans, they were frustrated because it's like, wait a minute, we've been beating up on you guys, not always, but like we've beaten Oregon, USC, all those teams, like, and you're getting it over us. I think that's where some of that frustration comes from. I mean, Cody, I'll ask you this, like, were you frustrated at all when Texas and Oklahoma got the invite, even though you guys have made conference championships and beaten both of them routinely? I mean, you guys won the last game against Oklahoma, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we've won 2 of the last 3 against OU, and we won 12 of the last 15 against Texas. So, I mean, yeah, but at the same point in time, I don't know, man. I think we were, honestly, most of us were pretty happy that Texas was leaving the conference. Now, we hate OU, but when you win 2 of the last 3, you kind of want to keep playing that game because it kind of feels like, oh, crap, we have caught them finally now. Now we want to keep playing them because we were playing catch-up for, 80 years. Right? Let's call it what it was. Once we finally caught up, they took their ball and left for the SEC. So I don't think there was ever a moment of, well, all shucks, too bad we didn't get the invite as well. The only caveat I will add to that is there was, for a long time, and you're hearing it with Virginia Tech now, for the longest time, everyone was told that OU couldn't leave the Big 12 without taking Oklahoma State. And so there was some people in the fan base that were pretty mad that OU left without bringing us along. But me personally, I'm glad that there's a degree of separation. I was tired of this little, we need you to tug us along like a life raft conversation that was constantly being had. If we're good enough to be somewhere, I want it to be on our own merits, not because OU had to tag us along. So I didn't hate it, to be 100% honest with you. I didn't like the backdoor dealings that made it happen, right? Obviously, that's not a good look. But at the same point in time, people tend to forget Texas has been a problem in the Big 12 since 1996. They've been an issue. From the day they got in, they wanted more money, they wanted more this, they wanted more that. And unfortunately, our previous commissioners, they would give them that. And then, of course, OU would be like, well, hold on, we're better than Texas. If they get that percentage, then we should get that percentage. And the old Big 12 commissioner was like, you know what, you're right. You should get the same as Texas. And Texas didn't have the results on the field, right? That was the maddening part. You mentioned how you guys beat the Washingtons and the Oregons and the UCLAs of the world. So how they get in over you, that angle didn't make sense. We felt that way to some degree about Texas because we had been destroying Texas for 15 years like it was going out of style. But at the same point in time, they have the money, they have the 40 acres, they have the cachet. I'm happy that Texas is out of the conference. Not so much OU. I do miss Bedlam. I do think that it should be a yearly matchup no matter what the conference affiliations are. But at the end of the day, I'm telling you, man, Texas was going to keep being a problem no matter what. And if they start winning the SEC regularly, they will become a problem for that conference as well. I know everyone says that Greg Sankey will put them in their place. No, he will not. Texas is, unfortunately, they're like their own entity, right? They could operate just like Notre Dame if they wanted to. They're big enough. They make enough money. They get enough talent. They could overrun a lot of these SEC types. Oh, yeah?
Why didn't they do that with Alabama then, though? Wouldn't they have given that special treatment to Alabama already? I mean, based on what we've heard, like, I don't know if they'd cave to Texas when they could be like, we didn't do that for Nick Saban. Why are we doing that for you?
Yeah, I don't know, because Alabama never carried the same cachet as Texas. Texas is all about money.
Yeah.
Texas will always have more money than every other team in the SEC, and it'll never be close. So, and unfortunately, whenever you have that kind of money, that allows you to swing some doors open that everybody else cannot always open.
Mm-hmm. That'll go over well in the SEC with some of those strong opinions too. That'll be something, Cody.
Before we do skedaddle on off of here, I have stepped out on the ledge, and I'll either eat a bunch of crow or look like somebody who somewhat knows what he's talking about. I have the Cowboys going 9-3 this season. Yeah. I'm sure you have Utah going 8-4, 9-3, right around that range as well. Potentially
10-2, buddy.
Okay.
10-2. I'm high.
10-2. What are your two losses?
Two losses for me right now on Utah. I'll go Baylor and Arizona State are the two losses to me. A lot of people say West Virginia. I just think Utah's clearly better than West Virginia right now. Could West Virginia win? Of course they could. It's college football. West Virginia to me is incredibly hard to predict because I just don't know what, these players are all so new. I don't know what it's going to look like out on the field. So of course they could win. I just think Utah is a better team.
Right. So you start the season with UCLA. That's a W because UCLA is trash. Cal Poly, W, Wyoming, pretty good ball club. They'll test you probably, but it should be a W. They didn't make a bowl game last year. Ooh, Taco Recum Tech has to go to Utah. That's going to be very helpful. You go to Morgantown. If that's a night game, look out.
Well, no, we could lose it. Like I said, I just think Utah's a better team. So that's why I'm going to pick them right now. And I think they're a better enough team, on the road, even they'll be able to overcome that. What do you make of West Virginia? It's all so new, Cody.
Yeah. No, I mean, West Virginia is very comparable to Oklahoma State. They went and acquired a lot of speed. They've got a new coach, so they also have a new coaching staff. There's a lot of similarities between us and West Virginia, so I kind of get their peril. But to carry on here, so you have Utah beating Arizona State, beating BYU.
No, I didn't say Arizona State. I said Arizona State a loss.
Oh, okay. So you have Utah beating Kansas State.
Yes, you got
it. Okay. I'm not poo-pooing it. I'm just curious, right? Because I'm sure people are going to poo-poo when I say Oklahoma State can go 9-3.
I can absolutely see it. And like you said, too, also, you talk about Mike Gundy. Mike Gundy is absolutely capable of getting this thing turned around this season. Just because I don't believe that Oklahoma State will be in the title race by the time we reach the end of the season does not mean it can't happen. I mean, it's quick. It's crazy how quickly we forget what happened in the Big 12 this last season. Where worst to first. And Kenny Dillingham, I think, is a pretty special coach, but so has been Mike Gundy. So I'm not going to doubt him and act like, it's impossible for them to bounce back. I just have questions about the roster. That's why I'm not as high on them. But I get it. I think this team's definitely getting back to bowl eligibility. I'm curious to see what the final record will kind of end up looking like, Cody. But for me, I could absolutely see 8-4, or even maybe a little lower than that. I don't know if conference contender for me, but Oklahoma State's going to get back to being a tough out. And in some ways, I mean, y'all did almost beat BYU last year up in Provo. So that culture that Gundy has, even though it's a little different, it's still enough there. I'm interested to see. I think he's going to save his job because, like you said, I mean, why in the world is a coach on a hot seat a year removed from getting into the conference title game? Do you think the ship is that bad that he can't retool it? With a guy like Gundy, I expect him to get this program back to being respectable. Does it lead to a Big 12 title? I don't know about that, but I think Oklahoma State's still going to be a tough out this year.
I don't think we win the Big 12 title, but I do think that we finish right in the battle for third, fourth range. I firmly believe that because we saw last year, 9-3, 10-3. That doesn't automatically equal you go to Arlington, right? BYU probably was making a compelling argument to be in over Iowa State, but it didn't happen. So they're a double-digit win ball club for no reason. All right, dude, before we skedaddle, for your fan base, yes, I am crazy. But the reason I have the Cowboys winning 9 games, primarily, number one, because of the schedule. We have 7 home games, including Baylor at home, K-State at home, Iowa State at home. We don't play BYU. We don't play Utah. We don't play WV. We don't play Arizona State. Like, we avoid some of the traditional heavy hitters or the teams that are at least projected to be pretty good this season. And then, like I said, Baylor, K-State, Iowa State, they all have to come to Stillwater, Oklahoma. Our road tests are at Lubbock and at KU. I think we split those, right? And I just mentioned with Texas Tech. If you've never been to Lubbock, it's same with West Virginia. When they're good and it's a night game, it's a completely different animal. The town comes alive. The stadium comes alive. It's way more difficult. But if you catch Texas Tech or West Virginia while they're down or 500 and it's a day game, it's probably a W, buddy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally get it. I'll say, Cody, I've just looked over your roster. I'm thinking 7-5. I think it's a bad break for y'all that you have to see Oregon this year. I think that's really tough. And I don't know how good Oregon's going to be, but especially the fact that you have to go up to Autzen, I just think that's a really tough draw. Things for Utah. The reason I think Utah can go 10-2 is I actually think in a lot of ways it's not a favorable schedule in terms of all the opponents, but the way it's kind of broken up, I think absolutely is. Some of Utah's toughest games, right? Texas Tech, Kansas State, Arizona State. Those are all at home, which Utah, when they have their projected starter at home, I know that's a massive caveat, but this team hasn't lost since 2017 with the projected starter at the beginning of the season. So it's very hard to win in Utah. And even with that in mind, like I said, I have Arizona State going up there and beating them. So for me, if you're Utah, right, like let's say you lose the best road atmosphere you play in, to me, that'll be Baylor against the Bears. I think that offense is going to be really good this season. Like, to me, it comes down to, okay, I do think Utah wins at home against Kansas State late in the year. And if Utah is capable of doing what I believe they are because of how strong they are on the offensive line in the trenches, how good a lot of the pieces are back for this defense, I trust the coaching in place. I think that's where I have Utah like going up and being able to win Kansas that last week of the season, firing on all cylinders to me. Also, Utah's buys fall at a good time. And I'll add this last caveat. Utah does not play back-to-back road games on a season. That's massive when you're going through a gauntlet of a Big 12 schedule. The only thing that's unfortunate, Cody, is we won't get to smack around the Cowboys this year.
Well, see, it's a good segue before we get on out of here, because what I was going to say to end it was, if this rivalry is going to gain any more momentum, it's going to happen if we both somehow magically meet up in Arlington.
I'd love it.
I think that'd be pretty crazy. So awesome. Who do you have currently preseason? Who do you think you're going to play in Arlington? Because you mentioned you have Utah going to Arlington, correct?
Yeah, Utah, Texas Tech. I have Tech losing that first week to Utah, and then I think Utah unlocks a juggernaut. I think that Tech roster is legit. I like McGuire. I think he's a good coach overall, too. Running back injury does scare me a little bit. I made that projection before he happened. Yeah. I'll keep it right now. I'll say Tech gets there. What's your Big 12 title prediction?
K-State, Texas Tech.
Okay, I like it.
And I think I'm going to stick with it because that defense, that K-State defense is pretty good. And Rocco Beck is a good quarterback.
I liked what I saw from Avery Johnson. They have some tough road games. So that's the only thing that scares me about them. I see them as 9-3 right now.
Very well could be. In this bipolar Big 12 conference, we don't even know what's going to happen. We're just projecting fun stuff and trying to rock for our brand. I bleed orange. You bleed feathers or whatever that bird has all over him. All right. Anywho, as always, everyone out here, thank you very much for tuning in to catch a little bit of this Cowboy-Utah crossover. I'm going to give JT a hard time till the wheels fall off. He's going to likewise do the same. Make sure that you all go check out the Squad Show. It's not your traditional show. We do talk about sports occasionally, but we also try to mix it up, have some fun, and and give some jabs occasionally, kind of like Devon Dampier being the third stringer in Stillwater, Oklahoma. All right, y'all. That's all we're going to have for this one right here. As always, I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. JT, I'm sure he has some fun stuff to say about Utah Nation, or he's going to throw up that little fun thingy there. All right, y'all. As always, we appreciate all of you. Appreciate what you do. Go do what you do. Hit the like button. Dislike if you don't like it. That's okay, too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe. Podcast people out there, you're everything that makes this work. Go do what you do. Hit the stars. Leave some reviews. All right, y'all. Later. Taters.